Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jessica Flynn and I am the owner and maker of Flynn Sisters Boutique. And today we're going to be doing a really fun and easy floral mixed pattern Mother's Day idea for your tumblers. We're going to be using different kinds of adhesive vinyl. I know I do a lot of pattern vinyl stuff, but whatever, I absolutely love it. And I love putting together beautiful coordinating patterns. You're going to find all the products that you see in this video listed down below in the description box. You're also going to find some discount codes for you there as well. So that's enough chit chat for me. Let's go ahead and get started. Right, so we're going to start out how we usually do by sanding to prep our cup. I'm using just a regular, I think this is a 60 grit sanding block, and I'm going to lightly sand all the surfaces of my cup, including the handle. Once we've got this all sanded up, I am going to wipe it down with some acetone and paper towels, and we're ready to roll. Next, I'm going to mark off a section on the bottom of my cup that is about 2 tape roll lengths up. So like one thicker tape roll and then one thinner tape roll stacked on top of each other. And I'm going to use that to steady my Sharpie marker to mark a straight line all the way around the bottom third portion of my cup. This design that we're going to be doing today will have 3 separate patterned sections. So I'm just going to mark off that bottom section and use that as a guide to mask off, which will be my center section. And I'm just using some Thicker's Painter's tape through this part. And then when I get to my handle, I'm just going to kind of rip a slit in my tape there so that I can get a nice straight line all the way through that handle. We should end up with something that looks like this, and now we're ready to apply our vinyl. I'm using this super cute red gingham pattern for the bottom section, and you'll notice today I'm using 8.5 inch by 11 inch sheets of patterned vinyl. Normally I'll buy 12 by 12 inch sheets, but because I had to buy so many different patterns and they don't take up as much room, it's cheaper and easier just to buy the smaller sheets of vinyl. And I will definitely link all these vinyls that we're using today down in the description box. So to start, we're just going to peel back about a 1 inch section of our vinyl and anchor it down where we want our seam to be. I chose to have my seam along the edge that the handle is on our cup here. And you want to make sure that that anchored section there is super straight. So it needs to be completely straight on your cup. Otherwise, you're going to end up having like a crooked pattern, which I ended up doing 3 different times. So definitely pay attention to that. And also, if you want to make it easier on yourself, don't pick patterns that require everything to be lined up and straight, because it's so difficult to get them straight around these cups. I'm also using a cup that has no taper, so it's completely straight down all sides. This is the camper mug from Craft Haven. I will have it linked down below in the description box. Once we get our vinyl wrapped all the way around, we're just going to trim off the excess with our craft knife. You guys have seen me wrap vinyl on cups many times before, so I'm not going to go too far into detail on this process. I will, however, link some of my older vinyl videos down in the description box if you want to check those out. But mainly, it's a matter of keeping that paper backing on as long as possible and taking your time to really smooth out that vinyl as well as you can and trying to smooth out all those bubbles. I'm going to pull the pattern down around the edge of my cup so I can have a nice finish at the end here. This is not necessary. If you wanted to just trim it straight around the bottom with a cup edger tool, you could do that as well. So once I've got this all pulled around the rim of my cup, I'm going to take my craft knife and just roughly trim off the excess around the bottom here. Don't worry if this doesn't look really pretty at this time. We're going to fix it up later. So for our top portion, I'm using this beautiful floral pattern. Again, I got the 8.5 inch by 11 inch sheet of vinyl for this one. And what you're going to want to do is kind of do like a dry run with your pattern to see how it fits around the cup. I've already trimmed up my vinyl. You'll notice I've trimmed off all the salvaged edges, and I kind of trimmed it to fit my cup section there so that I have an inch of excess on the top and the bottom. Once I have an idea of the shape of the handle and where I want my seam to lay near that handle, I'm just going to slice a little slit. You'll see here it fits really nicely. And again, just try to get a feel for how this is going to look, where I want my seam to lie. Once I'm confident with how we're going to place this, I'm going to peel back just one section on the bottom half of that slit piece of vinyl there. You'll see what I'm doing. And we're just going to very carefully place that as straight as we can underneath that handle. Once we've got that anchored down, I'm going to start to remove the paper backing on the top half of that slit. And like I normally would, I just have that first 1 inch of vinyl attached as our anchor, and then I will slowly work my way around the cup, leaving the paper backing on for as long as possible. You're going to find that with these smaller sections of vinyl, it's going to be a lot easier for you to smooth out those bubbles and wrinkles than it would be with a full vinyl wrap. I'm using the felt edge of my vinyl scraper to help me smooth everything out nicely. And then once we get around to our seam on the side, I'm just going to trim it up with my craft knife. Next, I'm going to trim off any excess that might have been overlapped on that blue masked section. This is our center section here, and then I'm going to remove the blue masking tape to reveal the area where we're going to place our third pattern. But first, I want to make sure that I trim off that excess vinyl around the top. This is just using a sharp craft knife and running it along that top rim to cleanly trim that edge. Center section, I'm just going to trim up my pattern, and I'm just trimming off the white edges and then getting a rough estimate on the width so that I should have about 1 inch on the top and bottom to work with. And in the same way that I applied that top section around the handle, I'm going to do the same process with the center section around that handle. This time though, when I cut the slit, I made a little bit of a notch, like I cut a little bit of a notch out. And that made it easier for me to get everything lined up around the handle. Because again, you do want everything to line up straight with that initial anchored piece so that the remainder of the pattern goes around straight with our cup. And so once we've got that vinyl wrapped around there nicely, again, I'm just going to use my craft knife to trim off any kind of excess. I did also trim off some here at the beginning seam to make sure that all of my seams lined up between all three patterns. And then I just went around where there was a crease from the top and bottom pattern and used that as a guide to trim out that center pattern. All right, so once we've got that all cleaned up, you just remove all your excess like you see here, and then we're going to be ready to move on to our next step. I also want to show you really quickly how I wrapped this cute little 10-ounce Lowball tumbler. Basically, we did the same exact steps that I would for any kind of vinyl wrap. Trim your, vinyl to excess so that you have 1 inch excess on top and the bottom and all the way around. And then starting with a straight edge at one side where you'd like your seam to lay, we just wrap the cup, leaving the paper backing on for as long as possible and using our vinyl scraper to, smooth everything out onto the cup. I wanted to show you guys what I did with that bottom seam because I am going to use that bottom seam that you see there as a design element for the cup. So once I've got everything wrapped, I'm going to trim around that bottom seam to leave it completely exposed. So you'll just press along that crease there and then run your knife along that crease to trim off that bottom excess. I'm also going to trim off my top rim like I normally would, just running my knife along that edge there. Once we've got that all cleaned up, you're going to tape off that bottom rim, running your tape line along the same crease that we trimmed our vinyl at, and then I'll use Saran wrap to mask off the remainder of my cup. And then I'm going to paint that bottom part white with just a matte white spray paint. Obviously, you could paint it any color that you want. Just make sure that you paint it really nicely, so no drips. You want to make sure you have nice even coverage, because that painted section will be a design element for our cup. We're also going to tape off the handled part of this other cup we're working on. Sorry if this is confusing. I'm jumping back between two different designs here. But anyway, for this handled cup, you do want to mask it off. Keep in mind, we haven't done any epoxy yet, okay? We're still at the very beginning stages. I'm masking off this handle and I'm going to paint it red. I just thought that would be a super cute and easy way to design this handle. And then as soon as our paint is dry, we're going to remove the masking tape and saran wrap from both of our cups and add some additional vinyl for some like little design elements. For this little tumbler, I'm doing a 2 1/4 inch circle. That's the same kind of size circle that naturally occurs at the bottom rim of that cup. Your cup may be different depending on what you're working with. You might want to epoxy first before you put some kind of vinyl down there, but I thought that capped off this particular cup really nicely. I'm also going to add my vinyl decals directly over my patterned vinyl. Your patterned vinyl is durable enough to accept the transfer tape and everything for your decals prior to epoxy, so why not save a step and just get it done now? So I'm just going to apply these decals like I normally would. I've already layered my decals. If you guys need help with learning how to layer your decals like I have here, I'll include another tutorial down in the description box that you might find helpful. And so for this red floral mug, I am going to add some more floral vinyl to the handle just as like an added design element. I've already measured the width of my handle, which was about 3/4 inch wide, and I cut a strip of that same pattern vinyl, and I'm just going to apply it by hand down the side of that handle and trim off the excess. Obviously, this is totally optional, but I just thought it finished out this handle so beautifully and such an easy and quick step to do. All right, and once we're done with all of that vinyl work, I'm just gonna epoxy right over that. I do wanna apply a thin coat of epoxy before I do some more vinyl detailing and the line work. I'm using Alumilite's Amazing Quick Coat, so this is fast setting epoxy, so after about 4 hours, I'll be ready to apply more of our vinyl details. We're ready to start on our sanding. I'm going to do my regular sanding routine. Just get that thin rim of stainless steel up at the top exposed so that we have something for our final layers to adhere to create our final seal on the outer rim of our cup rather than the upper rim. And then I also want to make sure that this bottom rim is nice and smoothed out because we are going to be finishing this bottom rim up with some paint here later on. And once we're done with our sanding, I'm just going to take this in and rinse it off with some dish soap and water, dry it off with some coffee filters, and now I'm ready for my vinyl line details. These vinyl lines I cut using Cricut Design Space with the Shapes tool. I used a square that was shaped 11.5 inches wide by 0.20 inches tall. And I just cut a couple of them of each different vinyl that matched the same metallic vinyl that I used for my decal. I will link the vinyl that I'm using down below in the description box. And as usual, we're just going to use the natural lines of our design to guide where we place these lines and then trim them at the seam with our craft knife. Once we're done with our vinyl lines, I did want to go back to this red mug really quick and clean up that bottom rim. The pattern didn't turn out as well as I wanted, and so I'm just going to tape it off and paint over it with white to clean it up and give me some nice finishing. I've showed you guys how I do this many times before in other videos, and I just like the way it looks after I have some epoxy built up there to spray paint that bottom to end up with a nice smooth finished look. I'm going to seal all this in using Counterculture's Quick Coat. This is a water-based urethane sealer. This is not epoxy. I am only doing this before my final layers of epoxy to ensure that those vinyl lines stay put and that I don't have any lifting, and to make sure that I have a drama-free final coat. After this dries for about like 25-35 minutes, I'm going to put my final layers of epoxy on. I forgot to film me applying the final layers of epoxy, but you guys have seen me do that before. So anyway, that's all for this tutorial. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you liked it, be sure to give us a big thumbs up, and please subscribe to our channel so you don't miss a new video. I do upload every Wednesday and Saturday. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. And a big thank you to all of our Flynn Sisters exclusive members. Thank you for your pledge. Your support means the world to our channel. If you love this video, you could check out our last video here. Also be sure to find us on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and of course subscribe for all our new videos that come out every Wednesday and Saturday. Thanks so much for watching. See you soon.